Now we're going to demonstrate installing this mini split condenser unit on an exposed fastened roof. So we're going to be using a lot of the same tools that we used before, but we're just going to introduce a few other components that we offer and a few other tools needed to do this installation. So we're going to have our S5 EF tab. EF stands for exposed fasten. It has an EPDM sealant on the back. It's going to keep out any water intrusion. It's going to be installed with our S5 stainless cap EPDM washer self-piercing fastener. So it's going to pierce that panel. It's going to create a really nice tapped hole in that panel and resist pull out very well while preventing water intrusion. And we're also going to introduce our dampening pads. These are available through any of our S5 distributors. This is a EPDM pad that we offer that helps with vibration, also helps with slight leveling. As you see here, this roof is slanted. You know, it has a slope to it. These will help level that unit out on this roof.
We're going to introduce one new tool, which is basically a 5/16 nut driver, and that's to tighten down those screws you saw a minute ago. The rails, as you saw in the earlier video, you have the 27-inch rail, or that we discussed, and we also have it in a 52-inch length. For this particular unit, the 27 is going to work great. So instead of cutting down a 52, we're going to go ahead and use the 27. First step is to measure up and mark where you're going to put your first attachment. I'm going to pick 12 inches here and try to write left-handed. I'll give this over to John. Make the second mark.
And I'm going to try to write right-handed. We're going to grab our gripper fix strut, our EF tabs, and unlike the last install on the standing seam roof, we're going to slide in the tab in this down position so that the EPDM seal sits on top of the rib. Just get them kind of temporarily in place, and we're going to go back to the roof. So as you see here, this gripper fix strut sits on top of the ribs of the roof. So this will distribute the load of the utility that you're putting on top of this rail to multiple seams. So it'll avoid point loads or point loading. Also, being on top of the rib, you're not going to have any water pull up down here. You're not going to have any pooling. You're not going to have leaves or anything else want to bunch up there and cause premature corrosion of your metal roof.
So now we're going to find our mark. I'm going to line that bracket up on the mark so I can see it. We're going to kind of center our strut on our seams, fasten it down. Line it up in the center of my hole, give it some good down pressure. Snug it in. It's important when I'm tightening these screws that I don't over tighten that washer, but the one good thing about this screw is it kind of prevents you from doing so.
So on the other side, rinse and repeat. Find the mark, line her up, get your screws centered in your hole, send it home. So much like last time, we're going to take the next piece of gripper fix strut that's going to be on the feet of the back of the unit. We're going to go ahead and start assembling those, sliding the tabs in. In this one, we're going to be using our 40mm serrated stainless steel bolt along with EPDM pads. So we're going to slide these into the slots just like before and get ready to assemble everything together. This is a good time to go and install our EPDM damper pads. They just slide over the fastener. They are slit as well too, so if you have to loosen the bolts up later and adjust anything, you can go ahead and do so. We're going to do 2 on this downslope side and then 1 on the upslope side.
So now we're going to go ahead and start moving things into place.
Go ahead and set our unit on our front strut. Get our spacing nice and good. Just pick up on the unit, install the back piece of strut. Slide the tabs into place and then rinse and repeat the same from the front. We're going to install our 4 S5 piercing fasteners into the roof. So now that we've got our gripper fix struts in place, we have our unit set in place. We're going to install a few washers just on top. Install the S5 serrated M8 nut right on top. Ratcheting wrenches are recommended. So that seemed pretty straightforward, getting that HVAC unit mounted up on the roof. Now that we've got it there, we've got to run conduit to it. We've got to run some wiring to it, probably some tubing. Can we use the gripper fix system for that?
That's a great point, and absolutely we can use a gripper fix system. When it comes to mounting any kind of piping, conduits, water piping, whatever you need to put up there on that roof, the gripper fix system is great for doing that. You can run on top of it, and even on solar installations, you can get where you run underneath, where you can run that all the way underneath your solar panels and hide that conduit.
So in the pan of the panel, in between the seams.
Right. While we're at it, I want to introduce a brand new product from S5 called the conduit clamp. And it allows you to attach conduits, piping in all different shapes and sizes directly to a clamp or to one of our brackets up on the roof. Before we get up there and do the install, let's quickly have a look. But it threads right into the top of that clamp. And there you go. You've got 2 screws on the top, cincher down on whatever it is. You can adjust the angles. Perfect way to go. And it also works with a gripper fix.
That sounds pretty awesome. Well, let's get into it.
Let's do it. We just installed an HVAC unit, and some of the next things that come with HVAC is attaching conduits and things like that. So let's jump into how to do some of that. We are going to use a different roof type this time so that we can show you the versatility of this part. We'll still be using the EF tab with our gripper fix. We have some clamps for some piping. We're going to attach a large piping here, and then when we get done with that, we'll show you some electrical conduit. I mean, this is pretty big for what we really need here, but
get her all lined up, all spiffy.
something else I'd like to point out is you could cut this piece in half because it is quite large for what we're doing. But if you had multiple runs you needed to run, like when you're doing a solar job, you could run multiple pipes across this to run all your home runs on solar or other things like that. So we'll go ahead and bring our pipe into place. It's a heavy one. We can run these bolts in here like a stud. Drop our clamp over it.
Get one side on.
Start our nuts. Same impact with the socket. There you have it.
Just that easy.
So now I'm going to introduce this new product to you. It's called the conduit clamp. It's got EPDM around it and basically a bolt. These come in multiple sizes, which we'll show you here in a minute, a few of them. What I can do is use this again in the gripper fix. This time I'm going to slide the nut into the channel and we'll fish it on down to where we want it. And then I'm just going to thread this in place into that nut where I want it. And it'll lock in so then I can move it and lock it into place. Pull these out. Put my conduit in. With this new conduit clamp, you will need a number 2 Phillips to tighten it down. There you have it. And she ain't going nowhere.
Conduit clamp can also be used with all of our existing S5 brackets, although sometimes requiring an additional M8 nut.
Run it that direction, run it that direction.
You can do it.
So there you have it. We've just gone over a few applications for the gripper fix and the conduit clamp and S5 in general. Thinking on that, there's a lot of other applications that it can be used for. A couple examples would be walkways, signs, combiner boxes for solar, cameras. I mean, whatever you want to put on that roof, I'm confident we have a solution for it.
Speaking of solutions, we used a few different of the S5 brackets and clamps today. What happens if you don't know which one's going to fit your roof, or if you don't know which one exactly you're going to need?
It's interesting you asked that question, John, because that is the #1 question we get at our product support line. We have tools online to go through. It's called the configurator, where you can go through and plug in all the specifics of your job and it will help you find the right clamp or bracket. But if all else fails, I encourage everyone to reach out to support@s5.com or get on the phone, give us a call, talk to Jed, talk to our guys in support, Jesse, possibly even myself. We're here to help and we love talking to our customers.